My name is Elias. I spent the last year of my life in a disaster relief camp that the news quickly forgot about. It was rough. Gravel, plastic tents, diesel smell, no hot water, and lights that often failed. It was the kind of place people donate to once and then forget, but for me, it was everything. I arrived here a year ago, ready to be a hero, but I stayed until the night everything went dark. It was raining hard that evening, as it often did. The ditches were overflowing and the mud was deep. The air was filled with the usual noise of engines, people yelling, and trucks. My body ached when I got into the Jeep. Not from getting old, but from sleeping on a hard cot for a year and lifting heavy crates of rice. Just holding the steering wheel made my knuckles hurt from the cold. But I had to drive to the main depot that night. Some of the newer helpers told me to wait until morning. They worried about the storm, but I was set on going. I had a list of medical supplies that the clinic needed before the sun came up. I didn't listen to them. When I first arrived, I dreamed of saving everyone. I pictured everything clean, homes rebuilt, and families happy. But the real work was messy, full of bureaucracy, and always loud. Sometimes I couldn't get a single document approved to move a truck for weeks. I worked around it. I argued with officials even when they slammed doors in my face. I wrote reports by flashlight when the power failed. I organized blankets, patched tents, drove the injured, and broke up fights in the food line. I wrote emails to headquarters trying to make our results look good, but I hid how I felt useless most days, and how I often wondered if we were just putting a small bandage on a huge wound. I had stopped expecting a big victory months ago. Now I just focused on getting through each day. Things like finding dry boots for a coworker, getting a specific baby formula for a worried mother, or just sitting silently, smoking a cigarette with a man who lost his home. No heroic actions, no medals, just finishing my shift. Deep down, I knew I was worn out. I hadn't told anyone about my shaking hands or the sirens I constantly heard in my head, even when it was quiet. There was a hospital nearby, but I didn't go. I didn't want to take up a bed. Maybe it was pride. Or maybe I just didn't want to admit that the stress was destroying me. That night, the rain became a downpour. I was driving along the supply route, a narrow, muddy track next to a steep drop. I thought back to my arrival last year, carrying a bag and a big idea of being a savior. I hardly recognized that person. I was thinner now, tougher, with permanent dark circles under my eyes. I took the turn too fast. The mud gave way. The back wheels slipped, and for a moment I felt like I was floating. Then the world flipped over. Metal scraped against rock, glass exploded, and everything went black. I didn't feel the crash. One moment I was fighting the steering wheel, the next, silence. No pain, no cold, just a sudden stop. At first I thought I had been thrown out. I could still hear the rain beating on the metal, but it sounded muffled, like it was far away. I opened my eyes, or thought I did, and the wrecked Jeep looked strange. It was clearer, but hazy. My body was still there, twisted in the driver's seat, my head on the airbag, glass in my hair, but I wasn't in it. I stood on the road, looking down. The rain fell right through me. I should have been terrified or screaming, but I wasn't. I just stared at the Jeep like it was a movie set. It looked destroyed, finished. I looked finished. I stepped back. I didn't sink into the mud. I turned toward the valley. I could see the entire camp below, lights flashing in the storm. I could sense everything all at once, the tiredness, the cold, the hope. I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was solid. I turned around. Jesus was standing there. He wasn't glowing. He wore a heavy, rain-soaked coat and muddy boots, just like mine. He looked like he'd been working hard all day. He looked at me, and I felt weak, not from fear, but because I somehow knew him. "You're tired, Elias," he said. His voice was calm but strong, cutting through the storm. "I failed," I whispered. I looked at the Jeep. I didn't get the medicine. I didn't finish the year. I crashed. He didn't argue. He just signaled for me to follow. "Come, let's look at your record." We were no longer on the road. We were in the supply tent, months ago. It was hot and smelled like wet cardboard. I saw myself yelling at a local vendor. He was shouting back, demanding a bribe to unload the food truck. I remembered being red-faced and angry, refusing to pay for 4 hours. I thought I had wasted half a day on a silly argument. "Watch," Jesus said. I saw the vendor finally give up and unload the truck. Then the view followed the vendor home. He was still mad. He told his son about the stubborn foreigner who refused to pay. The son, who was 18, was thinking about joining a local gang that robbed trucks. He listened to his father complain about me saying the supplies were for the children, not pockets. The boy changed his mind that night. He went to the camp warehouse the next day to see this stubborn man. He ended up getting a job loading supplies. I saw him now, in the present, driving a forklift, safe, earning honest pay. You thought you were saving money, Jesus said. You were saving a boy. The scene quickly changed. We were by the vehicle repair area, thick with diesel fumes. I saw myself holding a wrench covered in oil, helping a local mechanic named Kamal. His small bus was broken, and he lacked the tools to fix the axle. I spent 2 hours of my break helping him because I just wanted to fix something that would actually last. I remembered feeling irritated that I was doing manual work on my break. Jesus pointed to the bus. See where it went. I watched Kamal drive the fixed bus 3 days later. A mudslide was expected in the upper valley. Kamal drove that bus back and forth 4 times, risking the vehicle, and moved 40 families to safety before the mud hit. You loaned a wrench, Jesus said. He drove a rescue ship. We moved to the community kitchen, under the gray sky. I saw myself stepping between 2 angry men fighting over food rations. One had a rock, the other was screaming. I remembered the bruise where the rock hit my ribs as I separated them. I yelled at them out of frustration and sent them to the back of the line. I felt like a security guard, not a relief worker. Jesus pointed to the man who held the rock. He walked away angry and ashamed of being stopped. But as he sat by his tent, he saw his young daughter watching him with fear in her eyes. The humiliation of the moment caused a change in him. He dropped the rock. He never fought again, Jesus said quietly. Because you stepped in, he chose peace. He later became the one who organized the line himself. He protected the women when the lights went out. Next, we were standing on the muddy path to the west side. I saw myself walking, staring at the ground. I stopped to pick up a handful of rusted nails that had fallen from a truck. I was annoyed at the careless drivers. I spent 10 minutes clearing the path, tossing the nails into a ditch, thinking I was just wasting time being overly neat. Jesus pointed down the road. Watch the truck. An hour later, a heavy flatbed truck carrying a hospital generator sped past. Its tires rolled exactly where the nails had been. If I hadn't cleared them, the tire would have burst, the truck would have stopped, and the surgery that was in progress would have lost power. You saw trash, Jesus said. I saw a clear road for saving lives. The memory quickly changed. I was walking past a group of children playing in the dirt. A soccer ball rolled to my feet. I was late for a meeting, stressed about a report I hadn't written. I almost walked over it, but I stopped. I kicked it back. The kids cheered. I stayed for half a minute, watching them play, giving a thumbs up. It felt like a useless distraction. Watch the game, Jesus said. I saw the game continue after I left. The kids were from 2 different villages that had a long history of hatred. Because the foreigner encouraged the game, the tension broke. They started mixing teams. A boy from one side high-fived a boy from the other. Their parents, watching from nearby tents, saw their children playing together and lowered their voices. A fight that was about to start in the camp that afternoon was prevented. It cooled down on that dirt field because I took 30 seconds to kick a ball. Next, I saw myself in the busy admin tent, sorting piles of wet mail. I hated this task. It was boring, and many addresses were unreadable. I saw myself struggling with a smudged envelope, almost throwing it into the return to sender pile. But I didn't. I spent 20 minutes asking around, checking names on the camp list until I found the right tent number. I wrote it on the envelope and sent it out. Jesus showed me the woman who got that letter. It was from an embassy. Her request for refuge had been accepted. She dropped to her knees in the mud, crying tears of joy. She held her children, telling them they were finally going to be safe. You thought you were a mail carrier, Jesus said. You were delivering freedom. We were now standing deep in the mud, holding a shovel, digging a trench around the medical tent. It was pouring rain, and every shovelful of heavy clay felt impossibly heavy. I was cursing the weather, my back screaming. I remembered giving up halfway, thinking it was pointless because the water was rising too fast. I had thrown the shovel down in frustration. Look closer, Jesus said. I watched the memory continue. Yes, I walked away, but the trench was deep enough. That night, the storm peaked. The water rushed down the hill. It hit the trench I had dug and flowed away, just missing the tent. Inside, 3 premature babies were in incubators powered by a delicate plug strip on the floor. If the water had entered, the power would have been cut. The incubators would have failed. You didn't finish the trench perfectly, Jesus whispered, but you dug enough to keep the power on. Those babies are breathing tonight because of your aching back. The scene moved to the water pump station. A pump was jammed. I saw myself kneeling in the grime, fighting with a rusty valve. I remembered getting sprayed in the face with dirty water, wiping my eyes, and feeling angry about the lack of maintenance. I fixed it, then stomped off to change my dirty shirt. Jesus showed me the clean water flowing into the containers in Sector 4. The dirty, stagnant water they had been using was full of germs. The pump I fixed brought up fresh water. A major illness outbreak that was bound to happen was prevented. You washed your face, Jesus said. They washed their children. Suddenly, we were in the office tent, very late. I was helping a man who couldn't read write a letter to his wife who had been moved to another camp. I was so tired, my vision was blurry, and the man kept changing his mind about the words. I was impatient, tapping my pen, just wanting him to finish. I thought I was just wasting time scribbling words. Jesus showed me the letter arriving. The man's wife was very sick, losing hope, refusing to eat. A nurse read the letter to her, my messy handwriting delivering the man's simple but deep message of love. She cried. She started eating that night. She fought the sickness because she knew he was waiting. She got better. They were back together 2 months later. You thought you were a typist, Jesus said. You were a lifeline. We moved to the edge of the camp near the trees. I saw a starving stray dog, limping with a cut on its leg. I was carrying a first aid kit. I remembered feeling foolish as I used gauze and antiseptic on the animal. I thought, I am wasting medical supplies on a dog when people need help. Jesus showed me the dog 3 nights later. It was sleeping outside a family's tent. A candle inside fell over and started a fire. The dog barked loudly and wildly, waking the father. He pulled his family out just seconds before the tent collapsed. The gauze wasn't wasted, Jesus said. We shifted again, the dining hall, 6 months ago. It was 2 a.m. I was sitting with Sarah, a young nurse. She was sobbing. I was tired and wanted to go to bed, but I stayed. I made her instant coffee. I remembered thinking, I have nothing useful to say to her. I just sat silently while she talked about wanting to quit and go home. Jesus pointed to the door. She didn't leave. I watched Sarah stand up from the table in the memory. Then I saw her 2 weeks later. She was in the treatment tent. A child was brought in, his lips blue. Because Sarah was there, because she hadn't quit that night, she immediately recognized the signs of a rare reaction. She gave the medicine. The child took a breath, and color returned to his face. You sat with her for an hour, Jesus said. That hour gave that boy a lifetime. The scenes came faster, a rush of moments I had dismissed as interruptions or failures. I saw myself sanding down the sharp, rough edge of a wooden bunk bed in the children's tent. I was bored, just waiting for a truck to arrive. I smoothed the wood until my fingers were sore. Jesus showed me a toddler holding that rail the next morning, pulling himself up. If I hadn't sanded it, a piece of wood would have cut his palm, leading to an infection his weak body couldn't fight. He played safely because I was bored. I saw myself standing at a military checkpoint, rain hitting sideways. A young soldier was guarding the gate, looking freezing and miserable. I had a pack of cigarettes. I rarely smoked, but I carried them for trading. I lit 2, gave him 1, and stood there for 5 minutes sharing the silence. We didn't speak the same language. I just nodded, showing I understood his hardship. Jesus showed me the next day. An ambulance from our camp was stopped at the same gate. The guards were doing strict searches, wasting critical time. The young soldier saw the camp logo. He remembered the cigarette, the moment of kindness. He waved the ambulance through without a search. The patient inside, a woman giving birth, reached the hospital in time. We were in the operations room. The satellite phone was on the desk. I had a scheduled time to call my brother, my first chance in 3 weeks. I desperately needed to hear his voice. But then a young helper ran in, panicked, needing to call his family because of a rumor that his hometown had been hit by an earthquake. I remembered feeling angry and hesitant, but I handed him the phone and walked out into the cold. I never got my call. Jesus showed me the helper on the phone. His mother answered. She had been sitting alone, staring at a bottle of pills on her table, overwhelmed by sadness. The phone ringing startled her. Hearing her son's voice, hearing him check on her, broke the dark mood. She poured the pills away. "You gave up your comfort," Jesus said, "and you answered a prayer you didn't even know existed." We moved to a tent where the village elders were meeting. I had gone there to ask for permission to build new toilets. They offered me tea. The water looked cloudy, even though it had been boiled. I wanted to refuse. I had a sensitive stomach and was afraid of getting sick, but I drank it. I smiled. I praised the cup. Jesus showed me the elders talking after I left. "He drinks our water," the chief said. "He does not think he is better than us." Because I drank that tea, they trusted our team. When a cholera outbreak threatened the area, they listened to our hygiene instructions. They dug the new pits we requested. The village survived the season without a single death from the disease. "You overcame your fear," Jesus said, and they overcame their suspicion. I saw myself trying to speak the local language to a group of men who were mourning. I tried to say my deepest sympathy, but I messed up the pronunciation and accidentally said, "my donkey dances." The men stopped, looked confused, and then suddenly burst into laughter. I remembered feeling hot with embarrassment, like a clumsy fool. Jesus showed me the tent. The laughter had broken a heavy, silent week of grief. It allowed the men to let go of some of the pressure. They invited me to sit down. We shared a meal. A connection was made through my mistake. Being perfect isn't the goal, Jesus smiled. Making a connection is. Then I saw myself walking the fence line at sunset. A group of boys was throwing stones at the supply trucks. I was annoyed, yelling at them to stop. One boy, smaller than the rest, stood his ground. Instead of chasing him, I stopped. I remembered reaching into my pocket and pulling out a crushed protein bar, my dinner. I tossed it to him. He looked confused and ran off. I thought I had just wasted food. Jesus showed me the boy running back to his family's shelter. He didn't eat the bar. He broke it into 4 small pieces and gave them to his younger siblings who hadn't eaten all day. He sat and watched them eat, a small smile on his face. It was the first time he had felt like he could take care of his family since his parents were killed. "You saw a troublemaker," Jesus said. "I saw a life-saving meal." Next, I saw myself digging through a pile of wet trash near the washing area. A little girl was crying hard. She had lost her doll, a messy thing with only one eye. I spent 20 minutes searching through the filth until I found it. I gave it back to her, covered in mud, feeling silly for wasting time on a toy when there were houses to build. Jesus showed me the girl sleeping that night, holding the doll tight. It was the only item she had left from her old home. That doll was her comfort. Because she had it, she didn't wake up screaming. She could finally rest. Her mind, fragile from the disaster, found peace. "You saved her peace of mind," Jesus said. We moved to a sterile government office with flashing ceiling lights. I was standing at a desk, begging a clerk for travel permits. The man was emotionless, refusing me. I remembered getting angry, then forcing myself to calm down. I took a deep breath, apologized for my tone, and asked him about the photo of a dog on his desk. We talked for 2 minutes about his pet before he still denied my request. I walked out feeling completely defeated. "Watch the clerk," Jesus said. I watched the man after I left. He sat there, staring at the empty doorway. He was used to being yelled at, paid off, or threatened. My apology and my simple question about his life surprised him. 10 minutes later, a local ambulance driver came in, desperate for a pass to cross the checkpoint. The clerk, usually strict, stamped the paper immediately. "A gentle answer breaks barriers," Jesus said. "Your kindness stayed in the room long after you were gone." I saw myself sitting in the Jeep, engine running, letting a stranger plug his cell phone into my power outlet. I was restless, drumming my fingers, watching my gas level drop. I thought he was just checking social media. Jesus showed me the screen. The man was making a video call to a doctor in the city. His wife was giving birth in a faraway area and facing problems. The doctor guided a local nurse through the delivery using that video link. Both mother and baby were saved. They lived because I let my engine run for 15 minutes. I saw myself holding a flashlight in the medical tent during a total power failure. A surgeon was trying to sew up a deep cut on a man's leg. My arm was shaking from holding the heavy light steady for 40 minutes. I felt like I was just a piece of equipment, not important. But Jesus showed me the wound healing. He showed me that man walking out of the camp weeks later, able to carry his own bag, able to lead his family to a new, safe place. He walked because I held the light. I saw myself washing clothes in a bucket, scrubbing the vest of a colleague who was sick with the flu. I was cranky, tired of the smell of cleaning chemicals. I hung the vest to dry. Jesus showed me the colleague putting on the clean vest 2 days later. He felt respected. He felt like a human being again. That small feeling of dignity gave him the strength to face a tough shift where he correctly spotted a case of meningitis before it could spread. I saw myself giving my personal rain poncho to a freezing old man in the food line last month. I thought he just wanted it to keep warm. I saw him take that poncho and use it to cover a hole in his family's shelter. That night, a heavy frost came. Because the hole was covered, the bedding stayed dry. His wife, who was recovering from surgery, didn't get sick. She was alive today because of a simple piece of plastic I gave away without much thought. I saw a moment where I fixed the generator, yelling the whole time because I burned my finger. Because the power stayed on, the vaccine refrigerator didn't fail. 300 doses of life-saving medicine were saved. Then, a quiet moment. I was standing over a covered body near the temporary morgue. It was someone unknown, no name, no family. I stopped, put my hand on the plastic, and said a short prayer. I felt silly doing it, like I was just talking to myself. Jesus showed me a gravedigger standing nearby, smoking. He was about to quit his job, disgusted by the lack of respect for the dead. But he saw me pray. He saw me treat the unknown person with honor. He stayed. He buried that body carefully, and every body after that. He started marking the graves with stones, creating a respectful place for families to mourn later. You made the ground sacred, Jesus said. You restored dignity to a place that had lost it. I saw the email I wrote to a donor apologizing for the delays. I felt like a failure when I sent it. But the donor read the honest and exhausted words and decided to double their donation for the winter heating project. I stood there in the rain with Jesus, and the shame I had carried for a year, the feeling that I was too small, too slow, too late, began to wash away. The burden of the unfinished tasks in my pocket felt lighter. I measured my year by disasters, I said, my voice shaking. I counted the trucks that never came, the permits I never got. Jesus looked at me. His eyes were dark and kind. I measured it by small actions. You saw the mud, Elias. I saw the foundation. He stepped closer, rain dripping from his hat. You think you need many years to make a difference, but a single yes in a bad moment can stop a flood. He placed his hand on my chest. It felt warm, like the sun. I'm not letting you go yet, he said. But the Jeep? I stammered. It's just metal, he smiled. Go back. The work isn't finished. And Elias, yes? Stop trying to save the whole world. Just keep fixing the problem in front of you. The air pressure dropped suddenly. A loud, sharp noise filled my ears. I gasped, sucking in wet air. Pain exploded in my shoulder. I was back. Rain was hitting my face through the broken windshield. I could hear people shouting, "Over here! I see his flashlight! Get the crowbar! He's stuck!" I coughed, tasting blood mixed with rain. I was alive. They pulled me out of the wreck 20 minutes later. I had a broken collarbone and a mild concussion, but I was breathing. They loaded me into the ambulance, the same one I had sent out so many times. I spent 3 days in the field hospital. I couldn't move much. I just lay there and listened to the rain on the tent roof. But I didn't feel the crushing pressure anymore. I thought about the vendor's son, the nurse, the dry bedding, the vaccines. I thought about the clerk, the gravedigger, the boy with the food bar. I thought about the mechanic, the letter, the soccer game, and the girl with the doll. I thought about the nails I cleared, the dog I helped, the joke I made, and the clean water pump. When I went back to work a week later, I didn't try to work faster. I didn't try to be a hero. I walked with my arm in a sling. I sat with the new helpers. I checked the delivery lists. I looked people in the eye. I saw the man I had stopped from fighting. He was now helping direct traffic near the food tent. I saw the clerk when I went back for permits. He gave me a small nod. I saw Kamal driving the bus. I told Sarah, the nurse, that she was doing a great job. She smiled, tired but sincere. I didn't tell her about the vision. I didn't need to. I just watched her work and understood that God was present in the small, simple things. I'm still here. The mud is still deep. The work is still hard, but I'm no longer counting what we lost. I'm counting the small acts of kindness, and somehow, even in the rain, that is more than enough.